Vive la liberté! Vive la liberté!
Pew! Pew!
Здравия желаю, YouTube, товарищи. Давай, бегом на разведку. Здравия желаю, YouTube, товарищи. С Новым годом. Okay, so we just had Broken Arrow events, B.A.E. Airsoft, World War II event that was supposed to be the season closer for 2020. Technically, I think it still is because they don't have any other plans for events until March, as far as I'm aware. So let's just say Battle of Metz was more of a late 2020 season closer. It was a World War II event. Liam, the guy who writes these things, did try to make the events within this game correspond to the real historic stuff, but since this is an event that allows other impressions, not just Americans and the Germans, because at this event we actually had 3 Red Army, 3 Commonwealth, and 1 Jap, besides the Americans and the Nazis. So because we have a little niche thing in Airsoft, this was another event that allowed all World War II impressions, and that was cool because I get to use this stuff. Our Red Army numbers in the Northeast for Airsoft is growing. We had 3 different guys at the season closer for 2019 as opposed to this year. We had 2 other guys besides me, so that's like 5. And then there was another new guy, that's 6, who couldn't make it because of scheduling. And then we have another guy who's trying to make it, so that's 7. So we potentially have 7 6mm Red Army comrades on the East Coast, Northeast. So maybe next time we'll even deliver a stronger showing, really smash those quotas. So this event was fun. Top 2 of my Airsoft World War II experiences, but maybe even top 1, because the most important thing was that besides the good impressions, it was that we had unit cohesion. There was a distinct sense of cohesion where besides the units sticking together, and even when they had to be broken into smaller units to perform tasks, there was the cohesion of everyone knew what was going on and they knew their role in it to execute it in the correct way for our operations to succeed. We had the commander's intent, we understood it, we understood what we were supposed to do, and there was solid leadership where we were told our goals, our objectives, and we were divided into units and told which unit was to be expected, like what was to be expected of each unit. The way we like it, my group was essentially, разведка, doing recon stuff, going deep, flanking, way around, providing diversionary actions. More on that as I recall the actual events of the event. So there was about 22 people showed up with about an even split, and although at first we were told there was more of the Axis than the Allies, but I believe according to the organizer things were about even. Unfortunately, the way Zulu does it, Zulu will always allow walk-ons, and there were 2 walk-ons, but honestly I think they realized that wasn't where they belonged and they didn't stay for the whole day. Honestly, I barely noticed them while they were there, and I didn't miss them when they were gone. Just at the end of the day I realized, oh, where were those 2 guys? Who knows? Didn't miss them. So one of the other pluses for this last Broken Arrows event, World War II event, was that they didn't handicap the guys with submachine guns. SMGs were allowed to be operated as SMGs because the season opener, or the first World War II event for 2020, they did handicap the SMGs to semi-auto, and that totally defies the whole purpose of having SMGs versus rifles, you know. We did have 2 machine guns. There was an MG34 or a 42, I forget which is which. I didn't have really a close look at it. And we did have Mark 19 30 cal, 1 each, you know, each side had 1 actual machine gun. I don't know how long the MG34 lasted before breaking down, as they tend to do. We started out, for those of you not familiar with Zulu 24, they have 3 really built up areas, and they have a number of other built up areas, but there's one low area and there's a pond next to it. Then there's the middle one, which is at a middle height and has a church and a bunch of other structures. And then there's the highest step with more structures, including a mosque. So it's stepped where you have the highest, you have the medium, and you have the lowest. So we started out at the low, and our first mission was to take it over, which was a catastrophic success. We were assigned different roles. We got split up into 3 different groups. We had our Red Army group, and we were going deep and far away around the pond and coming in from the rear of that town. Then we also had the Americans and the Commonwealth guys coming in from 2 other directions from a more direct approach. It was a catastrophic success because everything went amazingly, perfectly. We cleared it out because there was no enemies in it, so that went like that. So we move on to the next level, the medium town. We move into it. We also managed to clear it and take up positions at the edge of town, looking upwards towards the next area where there's a tree line. And that's where we made visual contact with the Axis powers, engaged in fire, took some guys out at that point. We were holding it, and then the Axis had flanked us. They were coming in. They managed to make their way down the streetway of that town, pushing us from the side. And that's when our commander told us to pull back. You know, we weren't going to get pinched, so we doubled back down to that lower step town and assumed a defensive line where the Commonwealth and the Red Army were holding up on positions by the trees and these bunkers, which are these disabled pickup trucks that were made into pillboxes. And we're waiting for the Axis powers to come at us because we essentially abandoned the town. They should be able to come down to us. Turns out there was one Commonwealth guy that didn't get the memo, and he stayed behind like English Rambo, Sir Rambo, like some wild Gurkha or something, managing to stop the entire German army. They really did think we left much more than one guy there. He wasn't left there on purpose. I know. Stuff happens when you rapidly pull out. So there's a little lack of cohesion there, but not the same thing as anyone wandering around going Rambo mode like in typical airsoft scenarios. So I'm not too worried about that. And then a really stupid thing happened because we watched. Well, first of all, you have to remember that this day the ground was frozen because it was below freezing temperatures from the morning, and the highest temperatures that day were just at freezing probably. So you have the Nazi army with their hobnailed boots running on frozen ground, then you hear just a stampede, stampede running down, and we see them running towards this new castle structure that they put up It wasn't there when we were at the B.A.E event that happened in September. So they hit this town, they're running to this castle, and we realized, wouldn't it be better if we were at this castle before they could get this solid defensive structure? And just three idiots charging at them while they're charging. And the funny thing is, while this is happening, the mindset is like, we're about to go into melee mode. Like that, like that's kind of like what it felt like. We were about to run in and go butts to heads, you know, like buttstocks to heads and bayonets and stuff. But instead we were just shooting and running, and none of us made it. I don't know if we managed to hit any of the guys that were running at the castle, but we were all definitely gunned down. Funny moment after that, while I'm playing dead, laying down on my back, the other side, the Nazis with a STG 40, 30, whatever, the Stuttgart rifle, and he's using it on semi-auto, and he's shooting at the Commonwealth guys beyond my position where I'm laying down, and over my body I just hear whiz, 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 like I think it's really cool when you can actually hear BBs whizzing, like shots. You can hear the shots flying over you. That was really cool. That was fun. Whatever. We bleed out, and we head towards our respawn position. On our way there, we notice that there's a group of the Axis flanking around to go down to, along the way, there's this embassy building. And then, again, they had one group from one side grabbing all the attention, and another group that was supposed to flank from the other side. And that was good. You know, there was tactics, and there was cohesion on their side. I don't know, I wasn't on the other side. I don't know how well the planning was and the communication of the plan was, but it was executed, I feel, well, because it was obviously strategy being used. You had one group coming at us from this side, and then another group hitting us from the other side. So we go to respawn, and I don't know how successful they were, because when we rejoin the rest of the Allies, I didn't see any Nazis, at least live ones, so I don't know if they were successful in their flanking maneuver. But the Allies coming off that position seemed to be alive. So we go back up, and we're making our way towards the fuel dump area. So you got to go through this big open clearing space past the embassy, and on our way there's a little tree line between the edge of the middle village, and we make contact with guys holding the concrete structure there at the fuel depot. So again, without anyone having to direct us, we understand. We go into a flanking maneuver, though we do get kind of pinned down, do some bandaging for each other, and I believe someone else bandaged me, maybe it was one of the English guys. Yeah, I think it was one of the English guys. Bandaged me, and while a lot of the action is directed towards the little clearing area from the concrete structure towards where the rest of the Allies are coming from, I flank around, because I know at least one guy is in this defilade, and I decide, no, I can take them, and all their attention's in the other direction. So I go and I run over the hill, and I'm like, brah! But it turns out it wasn't one. It was like maybe 4, maybe 5 of them. And they return fire, and I go down. I'm bleeding out. But while I'm bleeding out, I get to watch the things unfold there, where the guys that were there decide to get the hell out. So again, I don't know if this was a pre-planned plot point, or this was a strategic move to save lives by thinking that besides me there's more guys about to encircle them, and they were like, let's get the hell out of there. Or I don't know what was the command, but they decided to pull out and they run away. But it's like, I did get one of those guys, and they didn't bandage him. They didn't try to pull out their buddy. Those goddamn Nazis, they don't care about their comrades. They just let them to bleed. But before they did that, Dan throws a grenade, and it's like, that was my thought. As soon as I ran up and I saw there was like 4 or 5 of them, I was like, I shouldn't have come in guns blazing. I should have tossed a grenade. And I was thinking, Dan bought grenades. He should toss a grenade. Dan tossed a grenade. The grenade didn't make it. It didn't make it over the berm into the defilade. So, wasted grenade. But of the same mind. That's some good comrade, hive mind. The people's mind is just, if only it would have made it, then it would have gotten a bunch of them. But I end up bleeding out, and we go off to regroup, respawn, and our next maneuver takes us down to the African village, which is, like, after I mentioned that we had the 3 steps of those towns, and then there's another drop, and there's the African village. So we were allowed to establish like a forward respawn, a respawn that we could lose if it was to get overrun. So we get to set that up as a respawn, and we meet with the French resistance. Well, there was 2 French resistance. One of them was in active combat. The other one was just providing us with intel on German positions, etc. Those guys were a fun dash of flavor for the event. So our next mission is to clear them out of that top level village, which might have been what we were calling actual Metz. So they pulled away from the fuel depot right across the top of that hill to that village and fortified. So once again, we develop a strategy where the Red Army, mighty Red Army, Razvedka, recon to go far around, while the rest of them push from more directly from the top of the hill. So we set off to go around the far way to be able to cut them off from potential reinforcements that would be coming back from respawn, and also to draw their attention away, so their attention isn't focused in one direction where the rest of the main force is coming at them. So we are providing that diversion for them. It was, again, good planning on the part of the Axis Command, because we did stumble across some guys down in the woods who I guess were supposed to stop any flanking advance, except there were only 2 guys, and we dispatched them easily. We didn't take any casualties on that. Of course, had we more than 22 participants that day, I'm sure they could have put a more effective blocking unit down there. But considering, like, if they had 11 guys and they take away 2, that leaves the main objective with only 9 guys to hold it against another attack of another 11 guys. So they can only stretch their line so far. So we managed to knock them out, and we go up the hill to essentially cut off their rear. So because we ended up getting into combat, in theory, they heard us, they know we're coming from that direction. We do get into some combat, and we do take casualties. I get hit, Nate gets hit, Dan manages to patch me up, then I patch up Nate, and we're back at it. And I think we're achieving our goal, because even though we weren't able to attack the rear of the town, like we weren't able to penetrate the rear, because that would involve exposing ourselves more. We were spending more time prone and engaging from some cover. We did intercept some guys coming in as reinforcements. That day, because it was so cold, I was expecting everyone's AGs, gas guns, to crap out. I was almost all my shooting was done at an angle where I was arcing stuff in and leading stuff in. So that made engaging targets more challenging. So I see a group of guys making their way as reinforcements, and I'm like not shooting at them, but above and to the right of them to try to drop onto where they're gonna be. I don't know how many I got that way. They once they realized it wasn't the safe approach and they started using cover. So perhaps they got bandaged while in cover. So I just want to point out, this was not like spawn camping, because their spawn was way away from there. We were just holding the edge of the towns to prevent reinforcements to just casually walk in. We did engage someone at the far end building. I don't know who got him, but someone was definitely hitting there. And we kept engaging them, so we were definitely, I would say we were definitely a functional, a useful force there. Like just the three of us definitely held back reinforcements that could have just otherwise easily retaken those buildings and made that fight that much longer and harder. But eventually we did end up getting hit and we couldn't heal ourselves anymore, so we had to go to respawn. So African Village was still up, so we were able to respawn there, and it was a quick walk back up the hill to the town from the main approach, and it seemed like we already had it, so we were able to casually walk in and reinforce it while the Axis were still trying to retake it. And again, they were employing some strategy. While we did have to fight some stragglers that seemed to have been hiding, their main force seemed to be flanking around, and I sound like one of my guys was injured. I went up to the second floor of the mosque, patched him up, and while I was trying to see what was going on, I took one nice solid shot to the cheek. Someone definitely using a bolt action rifle, and I suspect was a Jap, because after I got patched up, because you know when you put a little bandage on your hand, it heals this just superficial wound to the face. I got up and I did see the Jap guy walking around, and then that's one of the things I love about the guys that participate in the World War II Airsoft. There's also the same guys that participate, for the most part, the same guys that participate in the Vietnam Airsoft, and they are more than happy to properly play dead instead of just going, hey, turn around, hands up, walk away, whatever, just stand around dead. These guys will act out getting hit. They will play dead. Beautiful. So, and it was also good to see a Jap go down. There was another group besides the Jap that were going around the tree line and coming in from the direction of the fuel depot. And that was a good idea if it was just a diversion, because we managed to wipe out that group of maybe 4 guys. I saw maybe 4 corpses piled up in this little structure between the fuel depot and Metz proper. So, and then I see 2 more guys who didn't cross the tree line into the top of the hill, and I was like, did they get killed before the charge to that building, or were they just smart enough, they saw all those corpses and they were like, no, we're gonna go a different way? So that was cool and all, but it was maybe a diversion, or maybe this provided the opportunity for the rest of the group to sneak in going through the alleys, because I heard downstairs Nate got shot, someone shot him in the back, and I believe Dan also got shot for the second time on the roof. And I maneuver around the mosque roof, and I see from on the first floor in the next building, you can see one window, and then looking through this window, you can see through the other window, and I could see someone holding a rifle. and I shoot him. I'm like, aha, avenged, I got him. What I didn't realize was in front of him, on the other side of the window, around the corner, was that goddamn Jap again, and he got me. Pretty sure it was the goddamn Jap that got me. Как стыдно, блядь. So, we're dead. Pull back out. And this might have been time for lunch. Usually broken arrow events do not have an official lunch break, but I think maybe considering the cold, maybe that's why they planned once there was an official lunch break. After that, we get back and we have to retake Metz, or at least that was the original instructions we were given. So we go straight from our respawn, we form a line, and we advance. And while we're advancing, we're hitting at least a few guys over at the fuel depot. And what was interesting is we see the Nazis going down the hill, making their way down. And we think they're trying to encircle us, trying to flank us, like we're gonna push and then they're gonna be able to attack us from the rear. So the English guys, or at least the sniper one, focuses his attention on them, watch where they're going. I see some other guys making their escape, but then it looks like they dip into the bushes and the trees between the open space where you go down to the embassy and the middle level town. And while the rest of the guys are clearing that top level town and the fuel depot, I focus my attention onto those bushes because I'm convinced that someone is hiding there, like at least two guys. And I just pepper it while I'm slowly advancing, and then aha! The fool, he moved! If he didn't move, I wouldn't have seen him. And I managed to take him out. And extreme tension, like going to clear the rest of the bushes, and it was just the one guy. But then I noticed I'm looking at the very edge, the lower edge of that middle level town. I'm seeing a group of Nazis running away, and it's like for me to get a clear shot at them, I need to get out of the trees and through these thorns, and by the time I get to that, they've already dipped into the tree line that goes down towards that lower town. And I realized, no, it's stupid to run after them. I have the high ground. I can just get flat, and I can pick them off, or at least make their escape much more harder. And I'm yelling for assistance to get attention. That there's guys getting away. I need more fire. It's just me, and there's like maybe 3 or 4 of them. So I'm hitting them while they're trying to run away. I think I got one. I don't know if they managed to bandage him up. I was shooting them again. They started bounding, and they're heading also towards that embassy. So even despite having the high ground, they are getting out of my firing range. And finally, the rest of my allies show up when it's already too late and their enemy is way gone. So we already know there was an earlier group that went down towards the embassy, and then there's this other group, at least some of them, because they ditched another one of theirs. I don't know if he ran out of bandages or if they just decided to ditch him. There was definitely one body left over from those group of 3 or 4 guys that I was chasing down. And we regroup, and everyone is pushing in on the embassy from all sides. We got that place encircled. And once we get inside that embassy, it's the most goddamn beautiful sight ever. Just hallways full of dead Nazis. Just warms my heart to see so many goddamn dead Nazis. So that was glorious. And our next step is we reset and we go to the fuel depot, and then there's gonna be we're clearing it out, and then we're gonna, while the access is supposed to reset into that first town we assaulted at the very start of the day. But the thing is, you know, we go to reset on the fuel depot, but there's still a couple of goddamn Nazis over there. How did we miss them? I don't know where they came from. I don't know where they didn't get the memo that everyone else went somewhere else. But they put up a nice little fight, maybe 2 or 3 of them that were left over. And then once it was retaken, it was time for the obligatory, that means you are obliged to, the obligatory photo on the toilet. Zulu 24, obligatory toilet photo. I did it. Finally. So, our next operation is to retake that lower town, this time with baddies in it. So like our first mission was like a practice run, and now we're just going to execute the exact same maneuver, this time on an actual occupied version of it. So once again, we're doing the long flank while the rest of the guys are pushing in from the mainland while we're going around the pond. And we don't mind being spotted taking the long way around the pond. We know we're getting their attention, and that is the point, because if they're paying attention to us, they're not paying attention to that other flank. They're getting worried, they're getting spooked, they reposition. So the thing is, there's very little slip of land between the road, which is like the end of the field, and the pond, and then open clearing to get to that edge of the town. So there's at least 2 guys engaging us, and we're laying down. Of course, you have to remember that the majority of the allies are pushing from the other side, so we are distracting them from being able to support the rest of the defenders. And they are engaging us, we are prone, and I'm just watching BBs flying all around. And at one point, I see one coming at me, I'm like, oh, this one's gonna hit, and poof, hits a twig. I'm safe. So, laying low, they're shooting us, the BBs are falling all around me, they're falling between me and Nate, but not on us. Though, no, yeah. I wasn't sure if Nate got hit at that time, but no, I don't think he was. So, the person engaging me this whole time, who was constantly missing everywhere, on his last shot, bling, hits my helmet. And then he gets up and he walks away, and I'm like, oh, did he hear that plink all the way over there? Oh, that's cool. Afterwards, I'm told, like, no, I think he actually got killed. So, if only an ally just got there a little bit faster, I could have, not been a casualty. But that's fine, because Nate was right there to bandage me up, because, obviously at that range, his bullet wasn't strong enough to puncture my helmet. Yeah, good old Soviet steel. So, we go into the town, and seems like the allies have already cleared it. But then suddenly, there's one more Nazi! And he runs into this house. And then, there's one less Nazi! And the best part, this was a kid, I don't know, he looks like a teenager. And he's got a legit kit, and he comes to the Vietnam games and the World War II games. This kid, chef's kiss to you. That was fantastic. He drops like a sack of potatoes out of the hallway into the snow. It was just beautiful. Like, I shot him, and he just collapsed into the snow. It was glorious. Wonderful. And this was essentially the end of the event. What a finish. Thank you, kid. Thank you. Glorious. So because of him, and then we hear some more fighting, we go make sure that the town is actually clear. We're going around, going through rooms. Someone, I think, got one more Nazi right before we got there, or maybe he was laying there for a while. And then there's one more Nazi coming out, and I think he was already dead, but just for the funs of it, hands up, and he actually complies and puts his hands up. That was also kind of fun. All right, there was one more moment. It was earlier in the day. I think it was before lunch. where I think we came off our respawn and we were all gathered around the fuel depot, and the Nazis were down at the African village. So I guess they did flip it eventually. So they were there, and I guess we were trying to push them off, but our advance wasn't going so well. So we ended up just at the tree line. There's a big old tree area with two clearings going down to the main clearing with the African village. So our advance was kind of halted. I don't know, maybe there were 2 guys in there or something, 3 guys in there. And then around me, I feel like is someone shooting around me? Because I feel like there's incoming fire around me and it's not coming from the front. So I rotate over my back and I see one Nazi and I shoot him, but he might have been already dead. The thing is, I should have rotated farther because there's like 3 or 4 more coming at us from the direction of our respawn that I didn't notice at first. And then when I did notice, I start to engage them, but I already lost my shock value. I've lost my sense of surprise. I've blown it because I guess they didn't see me. I don't know, maybe they did see me, but they somehow couldn't hit me because my body was laying flat on a slope facing away from them. And the browns we were wearing kind of made it hard for them. You know, we blended well with the ground. So I don't know if they saw me before I engaged them or they only saw me after I engaged that guy that I didn't need to engage. But they ended up taking me out. And what was good was right before that, Nate got hit. I bandaged him. I think I bandaged another guy. So there was a lot of that, you know, you're playing with other people and I'm interacting with teammates, you know, besides, you know, passing orders and directions, you know, bandaging each other up. That also made the event more enjoyable. I don't remember where that fit in the day. That was probably right before lunch. Yeah, that was probably before lunch. I think we lost Metz, they retook it, and I guess they flipped over to African village so it couldn't be used as a respawn, and then we came off our main respawn and we had to fight them. Maybe something like that. Either way, Battle of Metz, Broken Arrow events, World War II Airsoft was a good time. I really enjoyed myself despite the freezing weather and the subpar performance of the weapons. I think 22 guys was a very good turnout considering the crappy weather and the fact that this is a very niche version of Airsoft. So that was very cool. I want more. I want more World War II Airsoft, and I want it in a warmer time where I don't need to wear all this padding. So thank you, Broken Arrow Events. I had a real good time. I feel like the biggest plus was the cohesion, and it definitely has to do with the mindset of the guys and the leadership being able to tell us what they want from us, put us into functional groups, and listen, the groups worked, we got stuff done, and except for the very start, we didn't really have any stragglers. And also, the interesting thing, the way that this was different than falling into the trappings of previous Zulu 24 events, because we didn't constantly have to fight over the same buildings, because that's like what happens usually at Zulu 24. It's like you end up fighting over the mosque, you end up fighting over some other key building, and it just spends most of the day doing that in one little location. It's boring, it's dull, it's repetitive. So it was great that we managed to cover most of the field, and the parts where the Germans had to pull away, that they had to leave, and we had to chase them down. that made it more interesting than just having to constantly fight over a key point on the field. That would be lame. And that we were able to do flanking maneuvers, and there was preparation for to meet those flanking maneuvers. That felt good. That felt like some thinking was involved, that like as if there was planning for this event. There was command structure, that felt good. That felt very good. I want more of that. As an improvement, I wish we would cover more of the field, because we always end up fighting in the same built up areas, and there is a corner that gets neglected of the field that is not built up. There's more woods. I would like to get a little more action over there to get away from these buildings. I want to keep getting away from the trappings of Zulu 24. Zulu 24 is a great field because they have built so many interesting things, and the rolling terrain makes it very interesting. But I don't like getting trapped in these things. There's more to do than just hit the same buildings. And I think we did a decent job of that at Metz, but I think we can do it even better. Thanks, Broken Arrow Events. See you out there, YouTube land. Professional.